ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाखया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधरा श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमति भक्ति वेदांता स्वामीति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारणे। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्कायते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारणम्। परमानंद माधवम श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य ईश्वरम गुरुवे गौरचंद्राय राधिकाय तदालये कृष्णाय कृष्ण भक्ताय तद्भक्ताय नमो नमः। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम
ॐ
नमो
भगवते वासुदेवाय।
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमा श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नन्दनाय च नन्दगोपाकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hari Bol. So let's get started. Canto 4, Chapter 9. It's titled Dhruv Maharaj Returns Home. I will start from first verse. So I can read this one. We can just recite together since since we are trying to cover several verses in one session. Maitreya Uvacha त एवमुत्सन्नभया उरुक्रमे कृतावनामा प्रययुस्त्रिविष्टपम् सहस्रशीर्षापि
ततो
गुरुत्तमा
गुरुत्तमा
मधोर्वनं
वनं
मृत्युरिक्षया गता.
मृत्युर्गताः।
I can read this one. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The great sage Maitreya told Vidura, when the demigods were thus reassured by the personality of Godhead, they were freed from all fears, and after offering their obeisances, they returned to their heavenly planets. Then the Lord, who is not different from the Sahasrashirsha incarnation, got on the back of Garuda, who carried him to the Madhuvan forest to see his servant Dhruva. Purport: the word Sahasrashirsha refers to the personality of Godhead known as Garbhodakshay Vishnu. Although the Lord appeared as Shirodakshay Vishnu, he has been described here as Sahasra Shirsha Vishnu because he is not different from Garbhodakshay Vishnu. According to Srila Rup Goswami in his Laghu Bhagavatamrita, the Sahasra Shirsha personality of Godhead who appeared at that time was the incarnation known as Prishnigarbha. He created the planet known as Dhruvaloka for the habitation of Dhruv Maharaj. Bold. So, just from what I understand, I'll just quickly summarize. What is happening is that Dhruv Maharaj is in the Madhuvan forest, doing a lot of austerities. He's standing on one leg. He's deeply in meditation on the Lord. He's holding his breath. He's doing a lot of austerities. And so that austerity led to almost like a suffocation for the entire cosmic manifestation. And so the demigods were worried about the fate of the entire cosmos because of Dhruv Maharaj's austerities, which was causing suffocation everywhere. So they were worried that everyone will just perish because of this type of or lack of air or lack of vayu and suffocation. So they approached the Supreme Lord for help, and Supreme Lord assured them that he will visit Dhruv Maharaj and that will stop his austerities, because that's what he's conducting the austerities for, to get his darshan. And so Lord will give him darshan. So this verse is saying, and this is a conversation between Maitreya Rishi and Vidura, where Maitreya is telling Vidura that this whole pastime of Dhruv Maharaj, and he tells him, so Supreme Lord reassured the demigods, and they were freed from all fears. They went back to their heavenly planets, and Lord got on the back of Garuda and went to Madhuvan forest to see his servant Dhruva. And Prabhupada in the purport has described the particular form of Lord that appeared in front of Dhruv Maharaj, and this form was Sahasra Shirsha incarnation. So then purport is a little bit technical, but what I understand is that this form is same as Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. And Prabhupada is quoting the Laghu Bhagavatamrit of Srila Rup Goswami, where he has further described this particular personality as Prishni Garbha. So there are so many expansions of the Lord, so many portions, plenary portions. But this particular personality was called Prishni Garbha, and he was none other than Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. So he created this Dhruva Lok for Dhruv Maharaj to reside in. I don't have too much clarity on the technical aspects of the expansions of the Lord, but I'm just going by what Prabhupada has described. But please, anyone else has any other insights, please share. Anand Kishori Mataji, Abhiram Gopal Prabhu, anyone wants to share anything? If not, we can.
Mataji, no, Mataji, not to. Maybe after the
I couldn't hear you very clearly, Mataji. I think your connection was breaking off. But we can keep going and see what else is coming up. Is it okay if we recite together, or would you rather do lead and follow? What do devotees think? If you want to take turns to lead and follow, we can do that also.
Lead and follow is okay, Mataji.
Okay. You want to read the next one then, Prabhuji?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, go ahead, Prabhuji. Please recite. Did you were you okay reciting?
Yes, Mataji, I'll try.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the meter, but I will try.
It is the long meter, Prabhuji, like
Just
the
like we did it just now.
Karpanya Dosha meter.
Okay. Savaidya yoga vipaka viraya
Savedhiya yoga vipaka
Tivraya. Okay, Tivraya. Ritpadma koshe spurtitam taditparabham.
Ritpadmakoshe spuritam
Prabham.
Tirohitam sahasaivo
Tirohitam
Palakshaya.
Bahistitam tad avastam dadashraya.
Bahistitam tadavastam
Tadarshaha.
So, Mataji, you want me to read the translation?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Please read the whole thing.
Okay, thank you. The translation by Srila Prabhupada. The form of the Lord, which was brilliant like lightning, and in which Dhruva Maharaj, in his mature yogic process, was fully absorbed in meditation, all of a sudden disappeared. Thus, Dhruva was perturbed and his meditation broke. But as soon as he opened his eyes, he saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead personally present, just as he had seen, as he had been seeing the Lord in his heart. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Because of this mature position in yogic meditation, Dhruva Maharaj was constantly observing the form of the personality of Godhead within his heart. But all of a sudden, when the Supreme Personality disappeared from his heart, he thought that he had lost him. Dhruva Maharaj was perturbed, but upon opening his eyes and breaking his meditation, he saw the same form of Lord before him. In the Brahma Samhita, it is said, 5.38, it is said, Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena. A saintly person who has developed love of Godhead by devotion service always sees the Lord's transcendental form of Shamsundar. This Shamsundar form of the Lord within the heart of a devotee is not imaginary. When a devotee becomes mature in his prosecution of devotional service, he sees face to face the same Shamsundar he has thought of during the entire course of his devotion service. Since the Supreme Lord is absolute, the form within his heart of a devotee, the form in the temple, and the original form in Vaikuntha, Vrindavan Dham, are all the same. They are non-different from one another. Haribol, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, please share something.
So I think what Prabhupada is saying is, sure, okay, I will just read the, let's understand the translation, I think. So the form of the Lord, when we do the meditation, the super soul who is sitting in our heart, and Dhruva Maharaj was meditating, and then the covering that is in the heart, which is ignorant, that because of power of meditation, that got cleared, and then he was able to see. Usually, like when a yogic person who meditates, he actually gets self-realized because he will see that he's not the body, and then he sees that Atma within himself. He brings awareness directly to the center of his heart for the Atma, and then he sees the light of his own light and he enjoys it. But in Dhruva Maharaj's case, since he's a devotee and was instructed by Narad Muni, and he was chanting holy name. So he is actually more than a normal yogic person, and then he passed that from his soul to super soul, who is sitting inside the heart. So he was able to see the super soul. It's and then in some place I read that the super soul, who is Lord Krishna or Lord Vishnu, the 400 form, he is in our heart in the size of a thumb. So he was seeing him in his heart, the four-handed form, and he was actually in the bliss of watching him and seeing him. So suddenly the brilliant light which he saw with the Lord and the brilliant light in his heart suddenly disappeared, and then the Lord appeared in front, and then he actually broke his meditation, and then he was a little bit perturbed, or he was a little bit disturbed with that. So he has opened his eyes and to see what happened and where did the 400 form went. So then he noticed that Supreme Personality of Godhead, who was sitting in his heart, he just appeared outside of his heart. And this we heard when Krishna took birth. So the super soul transcended from Vasudev to Devaki, and then Devaki and then it appeared as if she was taking birth, but actually the Lord appeared from her into the 400 form as a small child. So it's same thing. So Dhruva Maharaj was actually in a way he was a little bit delighted that the Lord is appeared in front of him, and here Prabhupada says that the Shamsundar form is most beautiful, and the saintly persons who has performed some devotional activity and is firm in his devotional activities and service will able to see the Lord in the transcendental form as Shamsundar. And this is not imaginary, as Prabhupada is saying. And then there is always hope for a devotee that he'll be able to see the Lord face to face in the course of their devotion service. So this is a very good encouragement for all the devotees. Hare Krishna. And the last part is the
Krishna.
virtual form is of in Vaikuntha and the Vrindavan Dham are the same. They're non-different from one another. That's what is Prabhupada is also saying. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji, for highlighting that difference between the process followed by a Jnani type of yogi versus a devotee. That was nice description. Anybody else wants to share anything?
So Mataji, I have a question, if I may.
Yes, Mataji.
Mataji, so the meditation form was the 400 form, or was it the Shamsundar form that Dhruva Maharaj?
So Mataji, this sounds, I was actually also confused about that, but yes, you're right. So that was a 400 form. That's why in the previous verse, Prabhupada is describing that this personality that appeared is Garbhodakshay Vishnu. And we know that Super Soul is Shirodakshay Vishnu. So that's why there was that confusion in the earlier verse where Prabhupada was saying that Sahasra Shirsha is actually Garbhodakshay Vishnu, although the Lord appeared as Shirodakshay Vishnu. So regardless, it's a Vishnu form. So it sounds like it would be a 400 form. And the Shyam Sundar form, Prabhupada is then further describing that we are encouraged in the tradition of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to follow, to meditate on the Shyam Sundar form. We worship on our altar, we worship the Shyam Sundar form of the Lord along with Radharani. And as we understand from the teachings of Mahaprabhu that the Shyam Sundar form of the Lord is considered the sweetest, and where Krishna displays his, topmost, is full in his emotions and full in his pastimes, and all kinds of rasas he exchanges with his devotees. So in that way, and which is very dear to Braj Gopis, which is the form worshipable in the land of Vrindavan. And so since Vrindavan Dham is the place of, topmost Dham in the Gaudiya tradition, and Shyam Sundar form is the worshipable deity for Gaudiya Vaishnavas. So my understanding is that Prabhupada has taken us there through his purport, but of course each devotee has their own inclination towards various forms, various aspects, various moods of the Lord, and looks like Dhruva Maharaj was focusing on this particular form of the 400 form that appeared. But this is, again, I'm just going by the limited understanding I'm getting from these purports here, but this is what it sounds like.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Can I share something, Mataji?
Yes, Mataji.
Mataji, this is so very special here, the last sentence that says, since the Supreme Lord is absolute, the form within the heart of a devotee, that would be the 400 form, the form in the temple and the original form in Vaikuntha. The form in the temple could be the Vishnu form or the, the 400 form, right? The original form in Vaikuntha. And then Vrindavan Dham would be Shyam Sundar, like 200 form. they're all the same and they are non-different from one another. And I think that is what Prabhupada was trying to tell us, right? That that the form within our heart, the Vishnu form and the Lord that we are seeing in the temple, they are all the same. So that was a sweet connection, Mataji. Thank you so much.
Yes, Mataji. Okay, perfect. Thank you for sharing that. Let's keep going. And, hopefully as we keep reading, we'll get more clarity. Who wants to read this next one?
I can read, Mataji.
Yes.
Tadarshane nagata satvasakshitva
Tadarshanena gatasadvasakshita
avandtatangam vinamaya dandavat
avandatam vinamaya dandavat
Drigbhyam prapsyan prapibanna ivarbhaksha
Drigbhyam prapashyan prapiban
prapiban
ivarbhaka
Chumban ivashena bhujaira ivashilashan
Chumbanivasyena bhujerivashlishan.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Dhruva Maharaj saw his Lord just in front of him. He was greatly agitated and offered him obeisances and respect. He fell flat before him like a rod and became absorbed in love of Godhead. Dhruva Maharaj, in ecstasy, looked upon the Lord as if he were drinking the Lord with his eyes, kissing the lotus feet of the Lord with his mouth, and embracing the Lord with his arms. Purport. Naturally, when Dhruva Maharaj personally saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face, he was very much agitated in awe and respect, and it appeared as if he were drinking the entire body of the Lord with his eyes. The devotee's love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead is so intense that he wants to kiss the lotus feet of the Lord constantly. And he wants to touch the tips of the toes of the Lord and constantly embrace his lotus feet. All these features of Dhruva Maharaj's bodily expression indicate that upon seeing the Lord face to face, he developed the 8 kinds of transcendental ecstasy in his body. Hare Krishna. So here, when Dhruv Maharaj saw the Lord in front of him, he was agitated, I think, with the ecstasy and offered the Lord obeisances. And Prabhupada is describing the 8 kind of symptoms of transcendental ecstasy that is developed on a devotee when one comes in contact with the Supreme Personality of God. So, out of awe and respect, Dhruva Maharaj fell like a rod and paid obeisances, in the form of kissing the lotus feet of the Lord and touching the tips of the toes, etc. Please add or correct, Mataji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, this verse is so beautiful. It's describing how Dhruv Maharaj is completely immersed in the Lord. He's drinking him with his eyes, kissing the feet with his mouth, embracing with his arms. So with his all his body, his senses, he's completely taking full absorptive darshan of the Lord. So very beautiful description. And Prabhupada has described these 8 transformations that happen in the body. So Ashta Sattvic Vikar, which is just various, like having goosebumps, on the body, hair standing on end, faltering of voice or trembling of voice, sweating profusely, tears, all these things, these kind of things happen in the body of a pure devotee. So that's Ashta Sattvic Vikar. So we're just getting darshan of the Lord through Dhruv Maharaj here. Okay, I don't have anything to add. Thank you, Mataji, for sharing. And then it's described how he gave Dandavat Pranam. So he fell flat before him like a rod. So you see here Dandavat. Avandatangam Vinamaya Dandavat. So he prostrated himself. Vinamaya is prostrating. So he offered complete obeisances with his entire body by prostrating himself like a rod. And this is just like we were reading in the last verse that none of these forms, whether you see the deity form of the Lord in the temple, whether you see the Lord standing in front of yourself, Lord is absolute. So they're all one and the same, not different from each other. So just like we pay Dandvat in front of the deities, that's none other than the Lord. Similarly, when Dhruv Maharaj saw the darshan in front of his eyes, he gave Dandavats just like that. So we should always remember that, sometimes we don't appreciate, we don't relish the importance of the deity, importance of the Vigraha in the temple, that they are none other than the Lord themselves. So we are actually getting darshan of the Lord on a daily basis. But we just don't appreciate that. And Prabhupada often in his purports in Bhagavatam mentions about Vigraha Seva and darshan in the form of deity is very, very important actually. Okay, let's keep going if nobody has anything to share. Anyone wants to read number 4?
I can try, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Satam vivakshatam atadvidam harir.
Satam vivakshantamatadvidam harir.
Gyatva sarvasya chahridi avasthita.
Gyatpasya sarvasya charidi avastita.
Kritagya jalim brahmayena kambuna.
Kritanjalim brahmamaena kambuna.
Pasparsha balam kripaya kapole.
Pasparsha balam kripaya kapole.
Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada ki jai. Although Dhruv Maharaj was a small boy, he wanted to offer prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in suitable language. But because he was inexperienced, he could not adjust himself immediately. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, being situated in everyone's heart, could understand Dhruv Maharaj's awkward position. Out of his causeless mercy, he touched his conch shell to the forehead of Dhruv Maharaj, who stood before him with folded hands. Purport: every devotee wants to chant the transcendental qualities of the Lord. Devotees are always interested in hearing about Lord's transcendental qualities, and they are always eager to glorify these qualities, but sometimes they feel inconvenienced by humbleness. The personality of Godhead, being situated in everyone's heart, specifically gives a devotee intelligence to describe him. It is therefore understood that when a devotee writes or speaks about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his words are dictated by the Lord from within. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, 10th chapter. To those who constantly engage in the transcendental loving service of the Lord from within dictates what to do next in order to serve him. When Dhruv Maharaj felt hesitant, not knowing how to describe the Lord for want of sufficient experience, the Lord, out of his causeless mercy, touched his conch shell to Dhruv's forehead, and he was transcendently inspired. This transcendental inspiration is called Brahma Maya. because when one is thus inspired, the sound he produces exactly corresponds to the sound vibration of the Vedas. This is not the ordinary sound vibration of the material world. Therefore, the sound vibration of the Hare Krishna mantra, although presented in the ordinary alphabet, should not be taken as mundane or material. Hare Krishna. So, can just, in my own limited understanding here, Dhruv Maharaj is feeling kind of like hesitant. He's not feeling like he's thinking that he's not having that experience as to, like, all of a sudden, like, he's seeing Lord and how to adjust his like emotion or feeling immediately. uh, Here Supreme Personality of God had himself, he understood, like, he understand everyone's situation, he understands like every living beings, like including us. Like, he is guiding, like, Dhruv Maharaj, like what to do next. And it is purely because of Lord's causeless mercy. And what he did here, like, he touched his conchal to the forehead of Dhruv Maharaj. And Dhruv Maharaj, like all, um, like he had that devotion. That's all, like, he had. And Lord could understand that. So in the purport, Prabhupada is explaining the same thing. Here, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, it is not, it is that transcendental vibration. It is not just the word of this material world. It is not just ordinary alphabet. So Hare Krishna. Please add Mataji or Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji, for sharing. Again, such beautiful verses going on. So amazing that Dhruva Maharaj, and we have experienced this in our own limited way also, that when some great devotee, wonderful Vaishnavas come in front of us, we suddenly our tongue is tied. We don't know what to say, what are the proper words to offer, how to offer them respects, or how to what to say. You feel very small. So this is how Dhruv Maharaj. So, and this is the Supreme Lord standing in front of Dhruv Maharaj. So we can get a little glimpse of what he might be feeling through our limited experiences, how we get tongue-tied. And Dhruv Maharaj is feeling similar, inexperienced, hesitant, awkward, um, and what to say, how to behave, how to adjust himself, how to conduct himself. And so Supreme Lord, being so merciful, sensed it. And so he immediately made him feel comfortable. And that is also something we have experienced in our some of our experiences with great devotees, wonderful devotees. You feel very hesitant approaching them, but once you do, they have this way of making you feel immediately comfortable. And then you can, suddenly you're able to pour your heart to them because they are so merciful with their compassion. They have such demeanor that they make you immediately at ease. They put you at ease. And so that quality you can see also comes from Supreme Lord. So Lord touched his conch shell to the forehead of Dhruv Maharaj. And so this reminds me of how, and Prabhupada has described this in purport, that how all the intelligence, whatever we speak, whatever we sing, whatever services we do, whatever capability we have, whatever intelligence, whatever skill, anything that comes from Supreme Lord. So even the power to offer prayers, appropriate prayers, to word them in a very elegant, eloquent way, that power, that speech, that elegance, that grace also comes from the Supreme Lord himself. So even those great prayers are being, Lord empowers you to offer those prayers to him. And a couple of examples that were coming to my mind in this regard was one, Prabhupada himself. He, about his purports, he has very famously said that my purports are actually my devotional ecstasies. So, and these purports are written by Krishna himself. There are many pastimes where he would tell his disciples that, this is These are words from Krishna himself. And similarly, another example of a great acharya comes is Baldev Vidyabhushan. So when Baldev Vidyabhushan wrote the commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam, when he was summoned to write that Govinda Bhasya, he said that this was written by none other than Sri Govind Dev Ji. So Govind Dev Ji has written the this commentary. And so there are many such examples, and in our prayers also, every time when we offer prayers, we say Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripatam Ham Vande Shri Gurum Dinatharanam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Ishwaram. So not only Ishwar, actually we are getting mercy, we are getting empowerment from our gurus, from our senior Vaishnavas. They give us the empowerment to be able to say anything, to offer any prayers. In fact, it is said that even chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra properly with focus, that mercy also comes from Supreme Lord and from Guru and from Vaishnavas. So even any services that we engage in, including chanting and what to say of glorifying the Lord, all that is coming directly from Supreme Lord and from our gurus and seniors. So one very wonderful verse. Okay, so I think now Dhruv Maharaj will start speaking. Not yet. Okay, let's keep going. Who wants to read the next one? Unless does someone want to share anything? Anand Kishori Mataji, Nagarjan Prabhu, Ramesh Prabhu. Anyone has any points? Please share. There's a lot that can be said about these beautiful verses.
Mataji, one important point is that unless Krishna gives us knowledge, we cannot understand him. So that was the same situation with Dhruva Maharaj. So when Krishna, when the Lord gave him when he touched his conch shell on the forehead, then he revived his original state, and then he was able to understand the Lord. So that is all. We are all in the same boat, like Dhruva Maharaj. Unless Krishna shows mercy, we cannot understand him.
Yes, Prabhuji. And Prabhupada has quoted that verse from Bhagavad Gita, Chatushloki Bhagavad Gita. Tesham satat yukta nam bhajtam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayantite. So I give the intelligence. And another place also, Krishna says that I give the remembrance, the forgetfulness. Okay, let's keep going. Who wants to read next one?
I can read this. Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Sarvai Tadeva Pratipaditam Girim
Savai tadeva pratipaditam giram
Daivim Parigyat Paratmanirnaya
Devim parigyata paratmanirnaya
Tam Bhakti Bhavo Bhagranat Asatvaram
Tam bhakti bhavo bhayagranada satvaram
Parishrutorushavasham Dhruvakshitihi.
Parishrutoru shravasam druvakshiti.
Translation Bhakti by His Divine A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. At that time, Dhruv Maharaj became perfectly aware of the Vedic conclusion and understood the absolute truth and his relationship with all living entities. In accordance with the line of devotional service to the Supreme Lord, whose fame is widespread, Dhruva, who in the future would receive a planet which would never be annihilated, even during the time of dissolution, offered his deliberate and conclusive prayers. Purport. There are many important items to be considered in this verse. First of all, the relationship between the absolute truth and the relative material and spiritual energies is here understood by a student who has complete knowledge of Vedic literature. Dhruv Maharaj never went to any school or academic teacher to to learn the Vedic conclusion. But because of his devotional service to the Lord, as soon as the Lord appeared and touched his forehead with his conch shell, automatically the entire Vedic conclusion was revealed to him. That is the process of understanding Vedic literature. One cannot understand it simply by academic learning. The Vedas indicate that only to one who has unflinching faith in the Supreme Lord, as well as in the spiritual master, is the Vedic conclusion revealed. The example of Dhruva Maharaj is that he engaged himself in devotional service to the Lord according to the order of his spiritual master, Narad Muni. As a result of his rendering such devotional service with great determination and austerity, the personality of Godhead personally manifested himself before him. Dhruva was only a child. He wanted to offer nice prayers to the Lord, but because he lacked sufficient knowledge, he hesitated. But by the mercy of the Lord, as soon as the Lord's conch shell touched his forehead, he became completely aware of the Vedic conclusion. That conclusion is based on proper understanding of the difference between Jiva and Paramatma, the individual soul and the super soul. The individual soul is forever a servant of the super soul, and therefore his relationship with the super soul is to offer service. That is called Bhakti Yoga or Bhakti Bhav. Dhruv Maharaj offered his prayers to the Lord not in the way of the impersonalist philosophers, but as a devotee. Therefore, it is clearly said here, Bhakti Bhav. The only prayers worth offering are those to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose reputation is spread far and wide. Dhruv Maharaj wanted to have the kingdom of his father, but his father refused even to allow him to get on his lap. In order to fulfill his desire, the Lord had already created a planet known as the pole star, Dhruvloka, which was never to be annihilated, even at the time of the dissolution of the universe. Dhruv Maharaj attained the perfection, not by acting hastily, but by patiently executing the order of his spiritual master. And therefore, he became so successful that he saw the Lord face to face. Now, he was further enabled by the causeless mercy of the Lord to offer fitting prayers to the Lord, to glorify I lost the
Here, last time.
I can't see it anymore. Is it still being shared?
Yeah. Can others see my screen?
Yes, yes, Mataji, yes, Prabhuji. The screen is being shared.
Oh, okay. So now I see. I know. Maybe it went to low power mode or something. Sorry. To offer fitting prayers to the Lord. To glorify or offer prayers unto the Supreme, one needs the Lord's mercy. One cannot write to glorify the Lord unless one is endowed with his causeless mercy. Hare Krishna. I can't even see the screen without Krishna's mercy. Okay. So, here multiple points are being highlighted in this verse, and Prabhupada has described them obviously wonderfully. And so it starts off with mentioning that about the relationship between the absolute truth and the relative world. So Prabhupada highlights the point that Dhruva was just a little child. He had not gone to any institutions. He had not learned any Vedic knowledge or scriptures or anything in detail. But he had the most important qualification, that was a couple of qualifications. One, that he followed the advice of his spiritual master, and second, that he had the bhakti bhav. He approached the Lord with devotion in his heart. So both these are very important. Without them, it is, and then of course the causeless mercy of the Lord. So we see that how much austerity Prahlad Maharaj had done. Dhruv Maharaj had done, and at the end of it, Lord had appeared But still, without the mercy of the Lord, he could not say anything. He could not really understand the details of the knowledge or the magnanimity of the Lord completely. But once Lord saw the bhakti bhav in his heart, and he, by his causeless mercy, touched the conch shell to his forehead, and then he kind of ignited the lamp of knowledge in his heart. Just like for Lord Brahma, Lord Brahma was very confused, didn't know what to do after he appeared, but then he prayed, and then Lord, Hridaya Adi Kavya. So he gave all the knowledge of the Vedas to Brahma in the heart. So similarly, Lord gave this knowledge to Dhruva Maharaj so that he understood all the Vedic conclusions. He understood who the Lord is, what are the energies of the Lord, what is the relationship of the Lord as the supreme being, and the other people as his servants. And then it is also described that briefly Prabhupada is giving the history of how Dhruva Maharaj came to start doing these austerities. Is he had he had asked to sit on the lap of his father, but due to what circumstances of his other mother, he could not do that, and mother told him to only God can give him the position he wants. And then he went to the forest, and he then met his guru Narad Muni, who directed him that how to reach the Lord. So, and he followed the process very stringently. So without the direction of the guru, it is very difficult to reach the Lord, and we need to follow the directions of the guru very nicely. And then by doing this process, by following the process of disciplic succession, through this process, he was able to reach the Lord. And Lord knows everybody's innermost desires. He's sitting as Paramatma in everyone's heart, and he knew what Dhruv Maharaj had initially wanted, and had already created a whole planet, the Dhruv Loka, for him. Even though now, as we will see, Dhruv Maharaj didn't want any material opulence anymore. Like, he had wanted a kingdom bigger than his father, was his initial reason he had started this. And similarly, we also see, like, we talk about the 4 types of people which come to devotional service, and whatever be the way, that's why it's described that whatever be the reason, if we approach the Lord, eventually our desires, they get purified. So we may be approaching the Lord for the wrong reasons, but it is still better to approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead than to approach other demigods, because if we approach demigods, it's like a give and take. Whatever we want, that if we reach that much pious credits, that will be fulfilled, but that may not be the best for us. So but whereas Supreme Personality of Godhead knows he's our best well-wisher, and will only give us what we need, not necessarily what we want. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Nagarjan Prabhu. So this verse is continuing on that same theme, that please read the next one. Give me just a few minutes. I'm just going to share the screen. Please read the next one, someone.
I can try, Mataji.
Sure, please go ahead.
Dhruva Vacha.
Dhruva Vacha.
Yodha Pravishya Mama Vacham Imam Prasuptam.
Yoga Vishya Mama Vacham
Prasuptam
Sanjeevayatyakhila Shaktidhara Swadhamna
Sanjeevayati Shakti-dhara
Anyamscha Hastacharana-shravanatvagadin
Anyamscha hasta charana shravana tvagadin
Prananamo Bhagavate Purushaya Tubhyam
Prananamo Bhagavate Purushaya Tubhyam. Hare Krishna. Thank you for reading. I'll just share a couple thoughts that I had about the last purport very quickly. So I was just thinking of this because Nagarjuna Prabhu highlighted very nice points. Prabhupada has said that one needs the process of bhakti yoga to attract the causeless mercy of the Lord. And secondly, Prabhupada has mentioned that bhakti bhav should be aimed at the Supreme Lord. So bhakti yoga does not mean bhakti to anybody or anything. Desh bhakti or pati bhakti or patni bhakti or any Devi Devta. It means bhakti yoga refers to, it is aimed at the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's the goal. And the process is bhakti yoga. And when one follows that process, even though one may one's entrance into the bhakti yoga may be with certain desires like Dhruva Maharaj, but it doesn't matter why one entered into this process. The process is so powerful that it will cleanse your desires, and secondly, it will give you all the transcendental knowledge, as we can see. So this, in this regard, I was thinking of the famous verse from first canto. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janyatyashu Vairagyam Jnanam Chad Yad Ahetukam. So by rendering devotional service unto the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna, one immediately acquires causeless knowledge and detachment from the world. So in this case, we see that both are happening, knowledge and detachment, both are happening. So that's such a powerful, beautiful process. As you can see, in case of Dhruva Maharaj, he's immediately detached from those desires, detached from the world, detached from those, has cleansed those desires that he had before, and has received transcendental knowledge. Divya Gyan Hriday Prakashito. Okay, I'm sorry. Let's so now Dhruva Maharaj is speaking from verse 6. Yes, Mataji, please go ahead.
Translation. Dhruva Maharaj said, "My dear Lord, you are all powerful. After entering within me, you have enlivened all my sleeping senses. My hands, legs, ears, touch sensation, life force, and especially my power of speech. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto you." Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Dhruva Maharaj could understand very easily the difference between his condition before and after attaining spiritual realization and seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face. He could understand that his life force and activities had been sleeping. Unless one comes to the spiritual platform, his bodily limbs, mind, and other facilities within the body are understood to be sleeping. Unless one is spiritually situated, all his activities are taken as a dead man's activities or ghostly activities. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has composed a song in which he addresses himself, "O living entity, get up. How long shall you sleep on the lap of Maya? Now you have the opportunity of possessing a human form of body. Now try to get up and realize yourself." The Vedas also declare, "Get up, get up. You have the opportunity, the boon of human form of life. Now realize yourself." These are the Vedic injunctions. Dhruva Maharaj actually experienced that upon enlightenment of his senses on the spiritual platform, he could understand the essence of Vedic instruction, that the Supreme Godhead is the Supreme Person. He is not impersonal. Dhruva Maharaj could immediately understand this fact. He was aware that for a very long time, He was practically sleeping, and he felt the impetus to glorify the Lord according to the Vedic conclusion. A mundane person cannot offer any prayer or glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead because he has no realization of the Vedic conclusion. Therefore, when Dhruva Maharaj found this difference within himself, he could immediately understand that it was because of the causeless mercy of the Lord. He offered obeisances to the Lord with great respect and reverence, completely understanding that the Lord's favor was upon him. This spiritual enlivenment of Dhruva Maharaj's senses and mind was due to the action of the internal potency of the Lord. In this verse, therefore, the word Swadhamna means by spiritual energy. Spiritual enlightenment is possible by the mercy of the spiritual energy of the Lord. The chanting of Hare Krishna mantra is first addressed to the spiritual energy of the Lord, Hare. This spiritual energy acts when a living entity fully surrenders and accepts his position as an eternal servitor. When a person places himself at the disposal or order of the Supreme Lord, that is called Sevon Mukha. At that time, the spiritual energy gradually reveals the Lord to him. Without revelation, by the spiritual energy, one is unable to offer prayers glorifying the Lord. Any amount of philosophical speculation or poetic expression by mundane persons is still considered to be the action and reaction of the material energy. When one is actually enlivened by the spiritual energy, all his senses become purified and he engages only in the service of the Lord. At that time, his hands, legs, ears, tongue, mind, genitals, everything engage in the service of the Lord. Such an enlightened devotee no longer has any material activities, nor has he any interest in being materially engaged. This process of purifying the senses and engaging them in the service of the Lord is known as bhakti or devotional service. In the beginning, the senses are engaged by the direction of the spiritual master and Shastra. And after realization, when the same senses are purified, the engagement continues. The difference is that in the beginning, the senses are engaged in a mechanical way, but after realization, they are engaged in spiritual understanding. Hare Krishna. This is very
Lengthy.
it's lengthy, but also lots of important points here. So I'll try to summarize as much as I can. One thing I understand from this verse is that Dhruva Maharaj was able to self-realize in the sense of self-observe of his abilities before he got the mercy of the Lord and after he got the mercy of the Lord. He was able to see himself or understand that he did not have the ability to glorify the Lord, not just by words, but even by understanding before the mercy of the Lord was there. So that part, that presence of mind or presence of the presence of mind for him to have that understanding is interesting there too, that he was able to see himself before and after the mercy. And the other thing is we are all doing activities even now, even being in the devotional path. Most of the time we are all doing things, but we haven't realized God. So we are acting on it, or we are doing the actions. But when a devotee who is self-realized and who is God realized, when they do the same activities, they are doing it with the blessings or mercy of Yogamaya or the spiritual energy of the Lord. So all actions that they perform are inspired by the spiritual potency, which is the internal potency of the Lord. And that makes me think, like, Srila Prabhupada and Bhaktivinoda Thakur and all. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, with all his engagements in the material world, like being the magistrate and all that, even then, all his activities would have been completely in connection with the Lord. Similarly, like Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, when they were still the in the with the responsibility of ministers, they would have been doing their work only in service of the Lord, because they knew why they were serving the Qazi, although it was not their it was not what they wanted to do. They wanted to serve Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but still they served the Qazi because that was their responsibility as such, and they were still doing it in service of the Lord. I hope.
Very bold.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mataji,
Thank you
for summarizing. Yeah, these are very wonderful purports, wonderful prayers. This is the first prayer actually Dhruva Maharaj is offering. And like you rightly said, nicely pointed out, that Dhruva Maharaj is comparing before and after. So before, he's feeling that everything was sleeping, and now it has become enlivened. And Prabhupada has expanded on that in the purport, the difference between a sleeping man and actually someone who's awake. So the difference is that someone who's materially conscious works on the bodily level, on the material platform. So all their activities are like those of a sleeping man in a dream. Don't really matter, right? Doesn't matter what happens in a dream. How does it matter? So his materially conscious person is just acting on the material platform and just wasting the resources given to him, whether it's the body, mind, word, all the senses. So they're just sleeping. But an awake person is actually acting. So an awake person, here the analogy is of a spiritually situated person, someone who's acting on spiritual platform. So he's not just in a dreamlike state. He's actually using all those things given to him, the body, mind, intelligence, senses, everything given to him, is engaging them in the service of the Lord. And then Prabhupada has quoted this famous song of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Jeeva jago, Gaura Chandra bole, Kota nidra jao maya, Pishachi rakhole. That how long will you sleep in the lap of this witch called Maya? So we're just, when we're acting on material platform, we're just sleeping in this lap of material energy. And when somebody comes in contact with the spiritual master, Prabhupada is saying in the end, and with the help of Shastras, they come into realization of the correct use of this body in, Yukta Vairagya. And so instead of engaging in sense gratification, they start performing on spiritual level. And that happens by the spiritual energy or the Yog Maya. And so even though they're still existing in this world, but now their activities are on spiritual platform. So pure devotees have, they're enlightened devotees, that their activities no longer are material. Anything that they do in this world is now for the service of the Lord. So it becomes devotional service. So initially Prabhupada is giving this, in the last couple lines, he's giving this understanding that initially someone may do those activities as a discipline. It may take some, regulative principles and some force of habit, and some develop this habit and discipline to perform activities of devotional service for the Lord. But eventually when he develops the taste, develops the nishtha, the determination, the faith, the ruchi happens, the taste develops, then the engagement continues. So he's climbing through the various stages of devotional service, and through Vedi Bhakti, through disciplined, regulative devotional service, he's advancing to the more pure devotional service. And so initially he's engaged in a mechanical way, but then he starts getting engaged in a more spontaneous way out of love for the Lord. And Prabhupada has used this word Sevon Mukha. So Sevon, let me see if this is used here. I don't see. So this is this reminds me of the verse from Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, actually, Sevon Mukha, where it is said, Srila Rupa Goswami says, Ata Shri Krishna Namadi na bhave grayam indriye sevon mukhe hi jivadau swayam eva swurati yada. So he says that material senses cannot appreciate Krishna's holy names, form, qualities, and pastimes. But when a conditioned soul is awakened to Krishna consciousness and renders service by using his tongue to chant the Lord's holy name and taste the remnants of Lord's food, the tongue is purified and one gradually comes to understand who Krishna really is. So that verse very nicely corroborates with this one, that how a conditioned soul is essentially someone who's sleeping, but by engaging in devotional service, the soul is awakened and starts acting on the spiritual platform. So, Sevon Mukhe. So then they develop this engagement in devotional service. So by seva, by service, one becomes awakened. And initially that awakening happens by, somebody waking us up, like a guru or some, sadhu and shastra, they wake us up. And when a person latches on to that path of devotional service with determination, patience, enthusiasm, then they make continuous progress through those stages of devotional service. So Sevon Mukhe is what leads to finally, strong faith, conviction, determination. Okay, I don't have anything else to share. It's, I think these verses are very beautiful, but we can stop here. Let's hear if anybody has anything to share. We read till verse 6, 4.9.6. Abhiram Gopal Prabhu, we didn't hear from you. Rekha Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Tanatram. Thank you, all the devotees. It was beautiful hearing realizations from all the devotees. Thank you, Mataji, for taking the lead and starting and sharing all the nectar. Very wonderful. Thank you, Mataji. And thank you, all the devotees.
Anyone else wants to share anything? So we have covered 6 verses. We have till about 25 to go. So hopefully we'll continue doing 6 to 7 verses for next 4 days and try to finish by the end of Bhishma Panchak. Well, if it's okay, we'll keep meeting at this time for next 4 days, 3 to 4 days.
I have a question. What's the Bhishma Panchak?
Okay.
I'm sorry, I don't know what's the Bhishma Panchak.
Sure. Would anyone like to answer that? Nagarjan Prabhu, you want to elaborate?
Hare Krishna Mataji. So there are sometimes there are a couple of explanations that come, but the one that I've heard the most is that this is the time when they, I think, the last few days of Bhishma Dev's life, when he was meditating upon the Lord, and so those days are called as the 5 days are called as Bhishma Panchak, and it is also described that he meditated upon the Lord earlier, and that's why Lord came in front of him at the time of death. But yes, I'm so there are like those 2-3 understandings. Any other thoughts? Anyone?
Basically, the last 5 days of the Kartik month, starting from Ekadashi to Kartik Purnima, is the Panchak, the 5 days. Is that correct? And They say that it's whatever spiritual services one offers, it has great returns.
Prabhuji, what I heard was in this, that is the last 5 days for the Kartik month, and Bhishma, Pitama Bhishma fasted for preparing to leave his body. And this was his last 5 days of Kartik month.
Yes. Yes, Mataji, is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Okay, we'll stop. Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories, all glories, all glories to Guru and Gauranga. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you everyone for joining. Mancha kaltarubhyascha kripa sindhuveva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah.